Our guest today is my brother and friend, Philip Harris. He will deliver an outstanding paper on a very interesting subject, the sun in our ceremonies. Many thanks, Philip, for sharing your knowledge with our audience. The floor is yours, Philip.
No, thank you, Claudio, and welcome everybody to this recording, which I hope you're going to enjoy. I have to give some acknowledgement, first of all, to the lodges that I belong to. The Lodge of Living Stones in Headingley in Leeds, under the Grand Lodge of England. Also the Scottish Lodge I belong to, St. John's in Scotland, and also Lodge Island 2000, which speaks for itself. And also the many brethren that have been helpful in teaching me and listening to me when I've been teaching them. It's been quite a wonderful experience of exchange one way and the other. Now I should point out that this lecture is based upon the formalities of emulation ritual, but it speaks well for the whole of Freemasonry, no matter what ritual that you actually use. Now we're going to start off by a brief introduction and lead into this, because Freemasonry has many great and wonderful secrets, but I must acknowledge that my Grand Lodge insists that the only secrets in Freemasonry are the handshake, word, and tokens. So I shan't be revealing any of them today. But we will start off with the first slide. And if I could just share my PowerPoint presentation, I'd be very grateful. We'll begin. We're going to talk today about the sun and Freemasonry. We, as initiates, are entitled to understand all the symbols, the allegory, and the more hidden links to the secrets of the Master Mason. This presentation is to explain the symbol of the sun in our ceremonies. To understand the nature of this lecture, we need to understand the terms. It is an esoteric lecture, which means that it is for the initiated. Only those initiated into the craft are capable to understand. If you have been initiated and do not understand, please start again. Learn your degree and the keys to this understanding. We have been introduced to some of the keys at each step of our Masonic journey. Our greatest pleasure is coming to see for ourselves the meaning of Masonry. Only with an open mind, using our education, our experience and insight, can we unlock the many wonderful truths of our order. In the following, we will see the pointers of the passage of the sun in each degree. By using simple illustrations, the solar system is used in the allegorical sense to enlighten us all in the greater working of the craft. Our objectives here today are to consider the cycle of the sun in the degrees and its location, and finding that you and each of us have a center, the center of our being, that depository that we learned in the third degree of that vital and immortal principle. The first step in Freemasonry was in my heart, worshipful Master. We came to this place in our hearts, desiring for many reasons, but chiefly the want to know. We want knowledge. We want to understand and be involved. Our hearts, if truly called, will keep us here against all adversity and maintain our interest as it starts to provide answers to us, imparts knowledge, and fulfills our need. We start from our heart and eventually find the knowledge we seek is within our hearts all the time. From the entrance in the west, we travel through the degrees picking up information, tools to work with, advice on how to behave with our brethren and the popular world, and a promise to keep what we learn. These are our Masonic secrets to ourselves. What we learn is for initiates only, not the profane or the scoffers, but those who are prepared to learn and grow in knowledge and Masonic understanding. Here, I want to bring some points to you that you may have overlooked, the sun during our ceremony, and the necessary studies we should engage in, and the path to the further steps we have open to us. Whilst there is much to learn, we have some pointers. I'm going to outline these to you about the sun in Freemasonry, what it shows to us, and the relationship to our temple. The temple we call the lodge, we must understand, is a metaphor for ourselves as individuals. Therefore, consider this as an explanation of you and the sun and what it teaches us about its presence. From the rising of the sun, you were born into the light of day. That great light, that lesser light or greater luminary of nature. Our journey begins at the sunrise and ends in the eternal, having passed through the setting sun. As you were born, you began to die. So it is with your initiation into Freemasonry. You began to prepare for that eventual end. It teaches you how to die. Some of you will have a faith and understand that there is hope there. Masonry is no different in that it gives you that glimmering light in the east when darkness seems to prevail, that bright and morning star that gives light and promise. Our preparation is to work in our rough ashlar, to make our contribution to life, improve self, and that our building will live respected and die regretted. Like any edifice built, it will remain as a testimony for a long time of work well done and a life well lived. We shall return to this subject of the ashlar later. When you are placed in the northeast corner, many believe this to be a lesson in charity, cash handouts, a new jewel or a certificate. But it is much more than that. It is the first lesson in empathy, not to feel for, but to feel with your brethren and the greater world. It should be the word agape, not charity. Agape is a Greek word used in the scriptures, which means to love the unlovable, to love freely and without measure. Obviously, this is more than the common belief of the northeast corner puts forward, but is a real concept, and the purpose is empathy for all. Work on empathy and sharing, not giving. The volume of the Sacred Law speaks clearly on this point. Let your giving be in secret. Such empathy must never be an ego boost. It must be one of humility, meekness, and silence. During your preparation for a solemn oath, you took 3 irregular steps of 9, of 12, and 15 inches. Here you were pointed to being yourself irregular before you entered into Masonry. Consider now the northeast corner that you were placed in, that place where the sun rises on the longest day. You are now casting a shadow as the sun rises diagonally across the temple to the southwest. This was a lesson that you were brought into the fullness of light. Christian churches in the Western world once had an alignment with the sunrise on the day of the patron saint of the church towards the east. This aligned the church building with the day between the north and the southeast, according to the festival of the saint. You are admitted into the greater light of the solstice of midsummer, to symbolize Masonic light. Your journey begins. You are open now to full Masonic light in the longest day of the year. In the second degree, you are placed in the southeast, the lodge, for its charge. Here, you are aware of the 5 steps you've taken for your oath, as of climbing a spiral staircase leading to the middle chamber of King Solomon. A spiral staircase that does not look forward, but looks outward as it turns. You have the straight path that is hard to find, in the nautical term, not a straight path which means onward directly. It is one that is not easy to navigate. As a fellow craft, you are worthy of your wages and a skilled man and worker. Here the sun rises on the shortest day of the year. Your shadow casts shadow to the northwest, crossing the previously described. But we go one further. At your third degree, your raising took place in the east. But you can see here that you have made 4 square angles, or 4 parts of a circle. An angle of 90 degrees, the 4th part of a circle. You, the temple, has now been divided into 4 parts. In this degree, you are raised in the east, and your shadow passes from east to west, as on the equinox. Equality and the bisection of yourself. Here you might understand more and consider yourself between the black and white squares of our mortal existence. In this third degree, you are taught to study yourself. It is worthy of you to be versed in the liberal arts and sciences and the more hidden mysteries of nature and science. But the study of yourself is much more onerous. You have the tools given to you in the degrees, the advice and the support of the master and the ancient charges. But it is here you must look within your heart to be brought to this place. The 7 steps you took in getting here, coupled with the 3 and the 5 of the former degrees, add them together and consider the number you have. The number corresponds with the rebellious fellowcrafts, which, recounted, but 3 met with judgment. Their egos brought them to destruction. Here there is a lesson to learn. Ego has no place in Freemasonry. This central line bisecting the temple in 2. It crosses the center previously marked by the shadows of the previous degrees. What it is pointing to is the center. You will have heard this center mentioned in the second degree. What it is and why it is important to a Freemason is about to be made clear. The center is really where the altar of the lodge should be placed. Under the G, that center, that place, marks your heart. You're at the center when raised, and the lessons to be learned, that you are never going to be perfect. You are not blameless. Nor are you more than any man. You are destitute. With this in mind, you will be able to develop peace, love, piety, joy, kindness, gentleness, self-control, and so bring credit to yourself and blessings to your fellow man. But faith is not faith without trial. Those of you who are familiar with the Excellent Master's degree or the passing of the veils will understand the challenges you have to face to measure that study of yourself. Ask yourself, are you beyond evil? Are you free of rebellion? Have you forgiven all others in seeking your own forgiveness? Has that vital and immortal principle explained to you in the third degree made you take that step in truth? Or are you still deceiving yourself? The hardest trial you can face is forgiving freely and absolutely. If you want to continue this journey of the sun and beyond it, and surrender to the peace and love of your brethren, bring blessing down on others, to live respected and die regretted. So more about the center. Most lodges have a G within a star or Ouroboros, that snake swallowing its own tail at the center, over the altar of the volume of the sacred law, square and compasses. It symbolizes eternity, geometry, the creator. and your perfect place of harmony with all things. Having found the first vestiges of your center, you can now recall the words formally presented to us. In the second degree, it says the center from which no master mason can materially err. That place of that vital and immortal principle within each of us. You circumambulated the temple within you, a progressive walk spiraling to the center, through all quadrants, and finding that point within the center from which you cannot err. It is well here to recall that lesson of the sword at your naked breast. Go slowly, do not rush into this, as it can be fatal. You can miss some key teaching and lose the pathway you are now placed on. When you entered, you came in as ignorant. You were enlightened and given knowledge. You are part of the rational world. This spiral is leading you ever closer to that center. But we have a walk to do as we approach it. We've actually measured the path of the sun in the heavens moving around the earth, as indeed the earth moves around the sun. So we see the orbits of the planets outlined here. But let's have a look at this quadrant. In the 4 quadrants that made about the center, there's the east, the west, the south, and the north. And each of them represents certain aspects of humanity. We're taught in the volume of the Sacred Law that we consist of body, soul, and spirit. The quadrant of the circle, with its apex at the center, your center, in this your temple, you have 4 quadrants to walk in. The west is the body, that rational, reasoning, material, and close to learning more than is needed or perceived of value. The mechanical person who lives in order and the physical world. In the east, that great space of spirituality and cosmic consciousness, the eternity and the whole truth, to live with one's life in the discipline of the spirit, so heavenly minded as to neglect the self and the world. And there we have the self, the soul of man, seeking knowledge, learning, growing in the more hidden mysteries of nature and science and liberal arts. The differential between man and the whole of creation, art, culture, literature, science, and philosophy. But then we have the dread north, that place of darkness, of ignorance and selfishness, our base origin, an ego we should leave outside of our personal temple, defeated and overcome, to live in a closed and narrow world. We have now a clockwise path as following the sun in our circumambulations, in our ceremonies. This path is the spiral leading to the center. It's not been easy to find, but finding this center produces an area of balance. Body, soul, and spirit aren't separate. Let us understand that they are us. It is the whole man. They are used in Freemasonry to understand the allegory, that point from which a master mason cannot err. That point of balance between the spiritual east, the material west, the knowledge of the south and the ignorance of the north. This is the human condition that we're actually in, neither veering from one side to the other, but achieving that balance, that harmony in life, that balance within ourselves that dictates the way that we should live and respond to others. At this point, we are harmonious, in balance, at peace with ourselves. We should now know who we are, not a pooh-bah, colonel, blimp, or major whatnot, but a master mason on the path to knowledge, understanding the world, seeking that which was lost, bringing those prepared in their hearts and tolerant of others and showing empathy to others. We should live respected and die regretted. Now look again at the sunrise of the equinox. It rises in the east and sets in the west, but passes to the noonday with its brightest luminary. The temple is divided equally between north and south, darkness and full noontime light. It is reminiscent of the squared pavement you stand on. Our path is equally one step in the dark and one step in the light. The checkered existence of life, the human condition, is evident. But we're at balance in the center. We manage through the trials, the disappointments, accept the inevitable. Change what we can, do right by all, and live an exemplary life. Be strong and run the race. If we do not believe in a superior being or an ordering principle of creation, Freemasonry has nothing to offer us. Here we see the life of man is understood. No one is perfect. We are transgressors, capable of evil deeds, but we learn to obtain forgiveness in forgiving others. We are all on this checkered floor and equal before the center. Our advantage is that we have the Masonic knowledge to help us through it. In the first degree, you heard the explanation of the tracing board. You have heard that the temple you are universal and so large to be part of it from the beginning to the end. Your center holds that vital and immortal principle mentioned in the third degree. The square, the circle, and the triangle are known to some of you. Within your center, that means you are within and without, as above, so below. It is the full purpose of man to achieve that balance, the macro and the micro, your place in life. Now we look at this, we hear that the surface of the earth is our starting point. Our temple rises to the highest heavens. It is from east to west, from north to south, down to the center. The temple is a metaphor for yourself. Your center is that place of that vital and immortal principle. Those of you who are aware of this symbol underneath with the square, the circle, and the triangle, understand that the square is your perfect ashlar, the triangle of the deity, and the circle of eternity. And the center is within them all. This is one of the great secrets of Freemasonry. The sun helps us find this way as we look about us, see all things, know all things, share all things, and be all things to all men. Thank you, brethren, for listening to me today, and I certainly hope you enjoy that. If you like this video, please leave a comment or tick that you're pleased what you actually saw. So thank you again, and thank you, Claudio, for your time.
I thank you, Philip, for your time and for your knowledge. Thank you so much, sir.